All right. Okay, any questions for anybody? Anybody have any general questions they want to ask? Anybody? We're good? We're all good? Okay. Okay. All right. So tonight we're going to look at, like I said, a couple deals. We'll look at Paula's because you're here with us. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment. 1 second. Yeah. All right. Okay. Paul, is this one yours? Let me see. Hold on 1 sec. Or no, then it's this one, right? I just took the name out. That's it, right? Okay. All right, so let's look at this property. Okay, so its price is 302, 3 units, 900 per unit, gives us 32,400. I see only taxes listed. Is there anything else, Paula, that that should be in here? No numbers on insurance or any other bills? Are the utilities paid by the renter? No more info. Okay. Okay. All right. So just a little bit challenge that's going to affect our numbers as we bring them in, but we can look at what we have. You know, there'll be an insurance cost, obviously, for the property insurance. The bills of if the owners manage it. Okay. Do you know if the tenants are paying for their own utilities? Okay, so they're paying for their own utilities. All right. Let's do that. Okay. All right. And I just moved that to 80/20 just because that's residential, because it's under 4 units. So 80/20 is something we can get for that. 5 and 7, we'll just leave it there just for now. The let me see something if I can do this to 4 and 5. Yeah, we're still a little short. Okay, so I went down to 4 and 5. Just wanted to see what would happen to the coverage ratio. The coverage ratio is 1.15, which is just a little bit low. The cap rate on it, current cap rate 7.4%. We'd like to see that at 10, of course. GRM is just a little bit high. We are making $80 a unit. The basement can be remodeled to rent as 1.5. Okay, all right. Okay, so that would be a 4th unit. Is that right? Okay, all right. So you can see that it's 302 now, based on, and it really doesn't matter about the financing, based on the income numbers without the extra expenses, 302 becomes 323. Okay, so when we add those additional expenses, that's definitely going to affect, you know, the cap rate on it. The cap rate will drop. Okay, what attracted you to this property, Paul? Do you want me to turn on the mic for you, Paula? Do you want to share with the group? If you're okay with going on the mic. Yeah, cap rate of the area is 2 or 3. You're right. Well, I mean, you know better than me, but that would sound right. And debasement option. Okay. 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 Paul, do you want me to put your mic on so you can speak? Do you want to do that? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now you're listed as a presenter. Your mic can be turned on now. Do you see your mic option? There you go. You on now? What can you? Are you speaking? Do you see a mic option, Paula? No, I can't hear you. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I think I might be able to fix that. Should be fine. Well, we should be able to hear you. Let me try something else. Okay, can you speak now? Are you speaking right now, Paula? It's like I can hear that someone's on, but I can't hear a voice. Can anybody hear Paula? No. Paula, do you see an option for your mic somewhere up at the top? Yep, it's on. Let me try something else here. It's on too. No, all of them are on. Okay. All right. I'm not sure why it doesn't come on. I got you able and enabled. That's okay. That's all right. Would have been just easier. I mean, maybe we should do a tutorial on that so we can. Because I'd rather we speak, everyone can hear the conversation, and then we can probably get it done and expand on it a little bit more. But that's okay. Don't worry about Paul. It's not your fault. We'll maybe look at that as something that we all can do, is do a little tutorial on that and make sure that we can hear when the mic's on or working that. I'm not sure why it's not working. You're unmuted. Maybe your computer's muted somehow, or I don't know. Honestly, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. Just there we go. Okay. We good? All right. We're going to continue on. So the amounts that are missing here are going to affect this cap rate. Net operating income's a little bit high because of those expenses now mentioned. This would probably be more 45-55 range, either or, and that would affect the cost. So let's, as an example, let's put. Let's see what that. So it comes out here is another 10, so it would be 3,500. Let's go 3,500. Just creating expenses. That's a little bit closer. Let's go 4,000. Yeah, this is more, you know, I'm creating that expense, and we're making some assumptions here, Paul, because we don't have the additional information. But you can see that that's kind of the range typically you're going to see this. And when we come down to the cap rate dropped to 6.1. Coverage ratio is 9.4, but that's really a function of the financing on this property. When we come down here, we see that the value dropped to 183. Okay, does everybody understand what I just did? Any questions about that? And why the cap rate dropped to 6.1 and the value dropped? Does everybody understand why that happened? Yeah, okay. Because simply there's more cost, right? Because there's more cost, that's going to create an impact on the value, right? The value is going to drop. So we definitely need to recognize that impact. We just don't know what it is. I just put 4,000, and then based on what you're saying that the cap rates are between 2 to 3. Sounds about right. In this area, this would be considered a catch, right? Because it's 6.1%. I'm sure, Paul, that's what attracted you to it. Seeing a 2 to 3. Yeah, okay, great. And we can collect that more information. Hopefully, this won't drive that, you know, the extra additional. And I've added 4,000, which basically I've over doubled the expenses. Hopefully, it won't be more than that. Now, 6.1. Now let's make some assumptions. Or let's look at, let's say that we add a 4th unit, like you said, and the total value will go up another, let's see, that would be 4 times 9, just so everybody understands what I'm doing. I'm adding another unit, 12 months times 900, because that was the average per unit. That gives us another additional 10,800, plus the 32,400 that was originally listed. So this one right here would go to 43,200. Okay, and we see that when we come down here, the cap rate jumps to 8.9, even with the doubling of the expenses. Did everybody catch that? You see what I did? I added the 4th unit, right? I still left the average at 900. If we multiply that by 12, right? 4 times 9 times 12, that's going to give us 43. Yeah, so that's a great question. So with this addition, too high, I calculated 4 to 5K. For, what do you mean by that, Paula? It's going to be 1.5. When you say 1.5, do you mean 1.5 bath? Do you mean 1.5 bedroom? Is that what you mean? So the basement, what do you think you can rent out the basement? The other 3 are bigger. Okay, so the basement, what do you think you can rent the basement out to? How much? What do you think we can get for the basement? You went 4 to 5K. You're saying 500 for the basement? Yeah, it will, Rose. You're absolutely right. It will change. We'd have to increase the price. So, Paula, okay. So, how much did they give you an idea of what you would need to renovate the basement to get that suitable for rental? Okay, yeah, I understand, Paul. No worries. So that's a question we can ask. We can ask the question of, you know, because they brought up the basement could be converted. We need to find out the cost to convert it, right? What's the estimated cost to convert? So we can add that. to the price. Rose, you're absolutely right. That's going to affect the overall price. And we also want to get an estimate on what we could rent the basement for after the rental is done. And we want these additional expenses. Definitely want the additional expenses. Now, this might appear this might be a challenge for a cash flow property. The only way we're gonna be able to get this cash flowing in the range that we want. You can see that it's the cash flow is $31.22 per unit. That's a combination of the additional expenses that we put on. Would be that we would be willing to put some money into the property, put money down. Is there an amount? Is there something that you would be willing to put down on this property? Are you considering that? Well, it could be 10%. I wouldn't want you to really go more than 10%, Paula, but you know, that could be a possibility. Or if we got an outside investor to put in 10% or 20% into the property, say we put in, you know, 30K. So that's 30%. Say we went 20% and we did this as 0. Just empty that. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. 20% down. So the 20% down in this example would be 60,000, right? If we went 10%, that would be 40. This would go to 90. That would help us. Still, in this case, and I've added the 4,000, right? Obviously, that's the problem here. The per unit would go to 110, but that's without the additional expenses, right? So as a rule, you know, and this is, you know, there's exceptions to every rule, right? 10% is, it's okay to put 10% of your own money in. The lower, the better. I wouldn't want you to put more than 10%. If you start reaching over 10%, we'd like to get maybe outside investors involved in the deal to make it, you know, suitable. In this case, I've left it at 3 units, 24. I still have only these expenses, but that's a possibility. I also want to let you know that I've been requested by one of your team members to let you know that they are interested in a partnership. They have some money to invest and credit available to get involved, and they really do want to get invested with someone, and they probably looking anywhere from 30 to 50,000 that they're looking to invest. So please keep that in mind. That's that we have partnerships possible. If somebody wants to get involved in a partnership, you find the property, this person would get involved. They're one of our team members. You can get involved. This is someone who has capital, who's saying that they're interested in using that capital in a real estate deal. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that our team members would be interested. So 10's okay. Okay, so Paula, so this is what I want everyone to maybe consider too, Paula. So you're saying 10% is something you could do. So that Paula probably is saying that she has about 30,000. If I'm reading you right, Paula, and please let me know if I'm wrong. I want you to consider the capital that you all have available to you as a possibility of a partnership if it makes sense to you financially, but you keep all options open to possibly use that capital into another real estate deal as an option for you. It's totally up to you. You have to have legal documentation. Obviously, your lawyers would have to review the agreements to make sure every party is covered and taken care of. Ultimately, that's your decision, but it's something I think is good to keep in mind, so we can start producing a yield from the money that we have. So this deal here, Paula, we can continue to update with the information that we need. The additional expenses and the cost of the reno of the property, basement, and how much we could get in rent. Can anybody think of any other questions? So we have 3 right now, right? We have the additional expenses. Can we get the additional expenses? We have how much would it cost to renovate the basement and the estimated rent that they think. Those are the three things that we've mentioned so far. Can anybody think of any other questions we could ask the seller? Any other questions? You guys with me? Any other questions? Come on, you can come up with some more questions. I want you to get involved in this. This is a conversation with all VTB. Good. VTB. Now, Paula, I don't know where you are with excellent, Rose too. Paula, I don't know where you are exactly with the seller and how much information you've acquired from there. Do we know anything, Paula, about their mortgage situation? Do they need the money to move? Do they need any other that information? Why they're selling, what they intend to do beyond it. Next week I'm going to give you the script I gave most of you for the for sale by owner. I'm going to share that with everybody next week. Okay, I'm going to give you a script of questions to ask, and we're going to go through it together next week. Okay, I want you to ask some key questions when you start talking to these people. I reached out to the real estate agents, so they are getting me the info. That's excellent, Paul. That's great. And because you're working with a realtor, getting that information it's a little bit different. But next week, I'm going to share that document with you all. Maybe some of you remember it. We did it in class. But just quite key questions we want to ask when we get through there. And also, with the realtor, that's pretty much how you play it, Paula. You collect the information from the realtor, and we see if there's a reason to continue having a conversation about things like VTB and stuff like that. Okay, so at this point, does anybody want to add anything else to this deal? Any other questions or things you want to talk about this deal? Looks like some people are typing. I'm just going to wait for Rose, I think you're typing something. Before we move on, any other questions about this deal? Paul, do you have any other questions? Nope, you're good? Okay. Rose, are you typing a question? Maybe you're typing. It's taking a little bit longer. Okay, Sam, is it better to get the answers from the owner, real estate agent, or is it okay to get them from the seller's agent? See, this is the thing, Rose. It's almost always best to get it from the seller. Sometimes, though, you can't reach out to the seller because the agent is there to represent them. And sometimes the agent is reluctant to ask these questions. Here's our challenge, right? So it depends on the agent and how they look at creative purchases, creative selling, and how motivated they are. And a lot of the motivation comes from the seller. How long the property's been listed, how urgent is it for them. We can test their urgency by asking those questions and seeing how bad they want to sell this property, if they're open to the creative finance. Because usually that's expressed to the realtor from the seller of how bad they want to get rid of this property or how quickly they want to get rid of it. So it does happen like that. So it's not an inappropriate thing to ask, Rose, to ask the realtor for those questions. I think initially collect the information, and if the property, what I like to do is I like to look at the cap rate. And if the cap rate is ridiculous, like it's 2 or 3%, I don't even bother with the other stuff because it's just so far away from what we can do something with. It's not worth our time, typically. So, what you can do in that case is I tell realtors, look, I really appreciate you sending me the information. Just so you know, I am interested in other properties. Here's the criteria that I'm looking for. Are sellers agents in favor of VTB? I asked the seller's agent on a property, and I don't even think they passed it on to the owner. So no problem, Rose. So Justin, you know what? VTB or any type of creative financing is not something that realtors typically participate in. Can anybody tell me why? Can anybody speculate why realtors are not big on any kind of creative financing sort of option? Commissions go down the toilet. Not necessarily. You know, for them, they don't get paid until there's a sale, but it could affect their commission. It's something, typically, it's something bigger than that, because regardless, the sale price is the sale price. They're going to get paid their commission. It's something more basic, I believe, for realtors, and it's just more work. It's more complex, right? And it's going to take more effort. And you know, then they have to educate the seller on what a VTB is, if they're the in between. They like simplicity, right? They like retail market. There's buyers and sellers. You got to remember that they're taught and trained to do retail sales. So it's difficult for them to, some of them, not all of them, but it's difficult for them to justify or understand how we look at property. For us, you know, we're not looking at property values as real. We know the market moves them up and down. We're looking for income as an indicator for us to be able to purchase, right? And I want to, and I hope I remind this to everybody every time. You know, the reason we get paid or we make money in real estate is because we solve a problem. There's no question about that. And if you can't solve a problem, or if there isn't a problem, then we shouldn't expect to get paid. You know, we shouldn't expect to profit in real estate. Otherwise, you're dealing in the retail market, and that to us, you know, we wouldn't consider that a good investment. You know, retail real estate in most of Canada just doesn't cash flow, so it's not worth it to us. And if it does cash flow, typically, you know, it would only cash flow if it was fully occupied and there's higher vacancy rates or some other motivation that creates that. Has anybody explored what Eastern Canada? Has anybody looked at properties in Eastern Canada? Because Eastern Canada, you're going to find, yeah, okay. So Justin, you know this, right? That the properties are better cap rates, but typically you have a higher vacancy rate, correct? Is that what you saw? Yeah. And you know what? I'm really considering, and I have to double check this, but I'm really considering bringing on some U.S. students into our class, into our calls, because I want to expose you to the opportunities in the U.S. Because I want you to see that some of the markets in the U.S. the cap rates are retail are higher than a lot of markets in Canada. And I don't know how many of you would be interested. How many of you would be interested in looking at some U.S. properties? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So what we can do is maybe look at some U.S. and I might invite a good friend of mine from the U.S. who does a lot of investing in the U.S. to join us on a call. And he's somebody who could give us some insight to the market. He's a trainer also, and he's very good at it. He does rehabs and buy and holds, and he works in primarily in Tennessee. And the properties that he deals with, believe it or not, they sell for $20,000 or $15,000 or $30,000. He rehabs them and turns around and sells them for maybe some markup, 50, 60, 70, who knows? It's really based on the actual properties. But even if he holds the properties, they're providing a real cash flow. So, you know, I think what I'm going to do is reach out to him this week. Hopefully I can get a hold of him. And he'd be more than happy, I'm sure, to join us and give us some insight to the stuff going on in the U.S. That being said, what he can also do, if you're interested, he can also help us because he does business in the U.S. You know, and he's part of the Rich Dad organization, the elite organization, legacy education. He can also talk to us about how to set up, you know, corporations down there and get property down there, and you know, so you're protected. The same sort of asset protection. They do it a little different in the U.S. than we do in Canada, so we would definitely want to do it different. We would want to have the right information, and we could possibly if that's the direction that some of you are interested, we can connect with the network down there in the U.S. And start looking at properties. What I will do, actually, now that I thought about it, if you're really interested in the U.S., I can show you some amazing things in the U.S. that are happening. I have software that gives me information about the U.S. and we can look at that. You know, I can maybe do a session on that. Maybe we can do that. Maybe we have some time for that for next week. What else do we have next week? So I'm gonna give you the list of things that I want you to ask for on a property, and maybe we'll do a focus on U.S. Okay, maybe that's what we'll do. Is there anything else you guys feel like you need right now? Yeah, I think so too, girls. We should look everywhere. Does anybody have any areas that they want to talk about or look at? I have another property I want to share with you. Does anybody have any other areas that they thought, you know, would be interesting for them? That would help their business? Calgary. Okay. What about Calgary? Like looking at the Calgary market, do you mean? Okay. Yeah, sure. We can look at Calgary. Okay. We'll look at the Calgary market. Sure. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the next part. Paula, are you good? Are you good with your property? We know what to do next? Otherwise, Paul's just typing in. Is everyone else okay? We're good? Yeah, okay, excellent, Paul. Anybody else have any questions about that property? We're done. If you're good, just type in yes. If you're good, we're going to move on. Okay, good. Good. If any questions come up, let me know. I know there's a couple of people that haven't typed in, but that's okay. Just we can continue and move on to this next property. Okay, so this next property was sent in to me. It's $285,000. There's 4 units, $675. So right away we see the $675. What are we thinking right away about the $675? That's monthly rent. What are we thinking about the property, the area? What's that telling us about the area? Possibly, not for sure. What's it telling us about the area? If you have 4 units and your average rent is $675, what is that telling you about the area? Possibly about the area. Possibly lower you go. Exactly. That's it. Exactly, Grego. That's exactly. It's possible, right? We're not going to say 100% sure. And the person that sent me this is not on the call, so right now. So we can ask that when they join us. Okay, so taxes are $4,000. Insurance is $2,000. No other expenses have been listed, so we're going to make the assumption that they're paying for it because these would be the ones that you'd have to pay for as the owner. We have 5, 5, and 10, right, just standard because there's nothing here for us, okay? Also, we go down here, 80-20 is right. That's what we'd use, 80-20 fully financed, okay? Coverage ratio is 87. That's a function of course, this. Now he put 15 in there. He put that in there. So I'm wondering if he has, you know, this financing at 15. He's already calculated the financing at 15. If we went 10, just to 10, C7, and you see what I'm trying to say? You see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to see what's going to get the coverage ratio to 1.2. Okay, 1.2 coverage ratio, which is what we want to see, right? So looks like the coverage ratio, it would even have to be lower than that. Maybe this would be 3. That would get us there. 3 and 4 would get us the coverage ratio 1.2. I'm going to put it back to where it was because that's the numbers that have been sent to me. Okay, so we come back here and we see that the current cap rate 7, which is not terrible at all, right? We look at the price again was $285. We see that the estimated value was $199. That's a function of the cap rate. Obviously, the cap rate is not 10. So hence we see also that it's a negative cash flow position, which obviously we don't want to get into that. But if we say did you know, at 20% down, that would bring it up to 67. So even with the 20% down, you can see that this property is only going to cash flow $67. The coverage ratio is going to be in line, but the average, you know, per unit is still below the 75. For safety reasons, we want that to be up to the 75 range. So, you know, we'd have to definitely look at price, fixing up the price, getting to see the swing, right, just with the extra financing. Getting the price right for us, or some creative financing method to move forward on this property. Okay. Also, when we come down here, so 199 would be the value based on that. If we come down here, it's 139 if we could get it for the 199. So this is a pretty big stretch, right? This is almost $100 grand difference. So that's going to be a challenge. Here we can move that up to 85 and 95. That's not a huge deal. And you can see when you go to 85, the value of 5% drop with the VTB. So that would be at the 199 though, right? Obviously. And then obviously we have our interest only and interest and principal impact on the property. This property has potential. It has potential because the cap rate's 7. We'd have to get more detail. Unfortunately, they're not with us to give the detail, but we'd have to get more detail on the property. Give me 1 second. Let me check something. See if I have more detail on this. Okay, so it's in foreclosure. So this and they're thinking that they could offer 170. Now, if they could get 170, watch what happens. If this property could get got for 170, look what happens. Cap rate goes to 11.7. Coverage ratio goes, even with the 15, coverage ratio goes to 1.46. And you can see this doesn't change, right? Because the expenses haven't changed. So 199 would be the estimated value, even though we could get it for 170. That's not going to change what we would value it. So this would be 170 would be an excellent price if we could get it for 170. Now we'd have to ask a lot of questions about what questions would we have to ask. Now if this is a pre-foreclosure, so it's in a state of foreclosure, what kind of questions should we ask? Give me some questions. Questions would you ask if it's a foreclosure? What would we need to know? So amount on the mortgage, good, excellent. What else? Balance owing, good, Grego, good. What else? Deadline, good. What else? If rented currently, yes. We'd have to have rent rolls for sure. Okay. Anybody else? You've covered a great deal. There's one more. Why would they be unable to pay the mortgage? Okay, good. Yeah, that's good, Brandon. That'll help us with motivation, right? Why are they in this situation? So I like that too. All right. So one more I'd like to know. Anybody think of anything else? You got the major ones for sure. We want to know more about the seller motivation. What's the market value? Good. Right, appraised value. Anybody else? Okay. One last thing, I'd want to know how much they're behind on the payments. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? See, we want to know how much is in the mortgage, right? We want to know how much is left on the mortgage, which is basically the same question as saying how much on the equity, right? How much equity, because we can work the math out, right? The equity position and the mortgage, which should give us at least what they think it's worth, right? But we also want to know how many payments they're behind, right? Because that's all part of the cost, right? Those payments have to be brought up to date for them to be able to do it, right? You can't, or they're going to go into foreclosure, right? Those payments have to be also considered and paid up, to the bank. So we'd want to get that information. Now, after we've gotten all this information, right? So let's say, so they tell us, well, the property's worth 325. We've paid off 250 of it, and we're behind on three months behind on payments. Even after they've given you all that information, we still would like at times we want a disclosure, release disclosure, so we can actually go. They send it a release form, so we can talk to the bank about that information to verify all that information. You can also verify that information with last statements and stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with talking to the bank and seeing if something could be done to assist and stop the foreclosure. Right? We try everything to try to help these people out. Okay, so also collecting data on the seller and their financial position possibly could even if we can't help them on this foreclosure, which I wish they were with us. I'm wondering if they're living there, right? They're living there, right? Or what caused this, or what's happening here. So maybe we can get more insight, because possibly the property, they might live at this property, and this is their not only a investment property. This is a residence, right? A residence for them. So we'll let them know to collect all that information that we've shared together. And we'll also talk about, collecting the data on the actual position of where the seller is. And hopefully we'll get that information and we can review it together as a group. Does anybody have any questions about this property? Any other questions? I can tell you this. I'm going to bet that this 675, there's going to be some more expenses here that are not listed. The lower I see this go down, the more I start to see, not in every case, but you'll start to see that they don't pay for their utilities. Lower income, right? They won't pay for their utilities. Now we'd like to stay away from that because it's difficult to control that expense. Doesn't mean it's a bad property if you have properties that do that, but we would love it if they were separated. The units were separated for utilities, right? We'd want to do that. So we're gonna wait to see what we come back with in the way of information on what the seller's position is and what they're willing to do, and possibly there's an opportunity here for us also. Okay. Any questions about this? We good? If everybody's good, type in yes. Good. Okay. One last thing I want to bring up here before we close out the call is these are what we're looking at here are some of the clauses from last week, and I don't want to get too deep into this right now, okay? Because I want to revisit this with Ed when he comes back next month. He'll come back and he can talk to us more about it. But some of the things you mentioned were already in here, which is great. The rent rolls. We want to know the rent rolls, and some of you have probably noticed that in this sheet, if you look at internet intent email, those clauses exist right here. They're all here, these clauses, right? And this was originally set up, and please don't use it, but it was originally set up. You can see these numbers have all transferred. It was originally set up to produce an intent to offer that you could actually email, okay? So I'm working on something else to be able to do that for us that did exactly what this does. But you can see the verification of income, you can see the financing clause, you can see rent verification. All those things, I'll just open this up. All those things matter to us, right? All those things, all those things matter to us, and we want those clauses in, and it's just basically our due diligence, right? We're just getting the due diligence of the property, making sure. So we see our standard financing one, we see income and expenses, right? We have to know, you know, where they are, taxes, insurance, hydro, gas bills, you know, period, as well as receipts for any expenses, rent verification, you know, showing us that, you know, if there's any leases there, we want to know. You see the property viewing rights to show an inspection. These are the things that we want. We really do want in our clauses to allow us to be able to do the due diligence and make sure that the property is a real opportunity. Now, don't be shocked if rent verifications and income and expense verifications don't come in clean, that the information is not, you know, there. That happens often. And why would that happen often? Who can tell me? Why should we not be shocked if income and expense and rent verification is not really up to date? Who can tell me? You can tell me. It's okay to guess. It's okay. This is the place you want to be wrong, right? If you make a mistake, this is the place to make it. So why do you think that we would you know, expect to see that? You know, or they you know, they take forever to give it to us. I can also add that we wouldn't be upset if it was late or it didn't come back, you know, fully with all the information. That wouldn't upset us. Okay, so Rose, when we ask for rent verification, so income and expense verification and rent verification, when we ask for those two things on a multi-unit property, and the seller comes back and says, you know, it gives us, you know, the information is spotty, it's not complete. That's what I mean. Why would the information not be complete? You can tell me. You got it? Okay, good. Who can tell me? Take a guess. Somebody take a guess. Why would it, you know, it's not uncommon for income and expense verification and rent verification not to be in order. You know, you don't receive it or you haven't been sent it. Anybody want to take a stab? Come on, somebody. Why do you think it's okay? It's okay. Take a guess at it. Take a guess at it. It's okay. I want you you're all smarter than you think, believe me. You know so much more than the average person, way above the average person, what they understand about real estate. So take a guess. Why would that be a thing? Why would we see that they wouldn't have the proper information? Why? Not actually rented, okay. That's possible. Yep, good. Not actually rented, yep. You'll see that. What else? Taxes, maybe they might be up to the tax. They typically, Paul, we're going to see the tax information because that's something that, you know, 99.9% of the time it has to be up to date or they're going to be in trouble, right? Taxes, they'll give us the taxes, but when we start asking for rent verification, income and expense verification, the information becomes very spotty. You don't see all the information. There's missing years, even, or months, or it looks like it doesn't look right to you. There's just something, the way it's put together, it doesn't look right. For rental income, yeah, they obviously want the rental income to look good, yeah. So they might input, they might show us, hey, you know, by the way, they wouldn't even say it most of the time. They don't. They just make the assumption that the place is fully rented because they want to show the best way. They don't keep it on track. They just put the rent checks in. There you go. Justin's got it. There you go. Yep. And go. Yep. It's just bad management. Bad management, right? And when we see that, don't get upset. You know, you're probably onto something. You see, the reason that they're selling the property is many people sell property, investment property, is it's mismanaged. So we shouldn't expect to see everything in order. In other words, I want you to embrace the idea that you're walking into, someone who has a problem. Part of that problem, typically, with a lot of situations we see is in the properties that we're acquiring, is that's the problem. They're not organized. It's not set up as a business, or they don't have an accountant or bookkeeper, and it's created a nightmare for them. So it's come to a head, and they're at a position or forced into a position where they have to get rid of the property. So it's not something crazy for us to see. And when we see that, then we can address it and hopefully help us negotiate. So with that clause, that would mean that they would use it as an exit because they don't have that particular info. We could, Justin, if we wanted to, right? Because we're asking for that. You can see right here it says seller agrees to provide within 5 business days of acceptance of this offer. So when we accept this offer, all these clauses in there. So 5 days, and we could change that from 5 days to 10 days or whatever. And you can see this income and expense verification 5 days. So if they breach any one of these, yeah, that would be an exit, right? That would be an exit clause. These are exit clauses, right? So because it says the offer is conditional upon the buyer being satisfied with the statement of income and expense, which the seller will provide in 5 business days. That's part of the exit if they do not provide that information. Okay. All right. Does everybody understand that? Is everybody clear on that? We good? Awesome. Okay, good. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap up. We got a couple more minutes. If anybody has any questions, So next week we're going to talk about the U.S. a little bit. Hopefully I can get my friend, good friend of mine from the U.S. to jump on the call, but we'll definitely talk about the U.S. And you know what? We'll talk about Calgary too. We can talk about Calgary market, and maybe that's something we can look at market to market. Maybe once, maybe I'll devote a little bit of time to each market. Maybe look and drill down on those markets a little deeper. But otherwise, does anybody have any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, I just see some people typing, so I'll give you a second. Is everybody getting the recordings? Everybody's seeing the recordings, right? The YouTube link? Everybody's got that? Can I get a yes for the YouTube link? Does anybody not have that? YouTube link for the videos? Everybody got that? Just a quick yes. If somebody doesn't, please say no, so I know to get that sorted. Everybody's got it? Good. All right. Okay. Okay. So I will post this up in the next few days. Okay, so maybe you mentioned it already, but yeah, the clauses are there. You can use those clauses. I wanted Ed to speak to those clauses. Here, I can give them to you, and again, I don't want anybody sending anything out until they're it's been reviewed by a lawyer. And I'd like to take a look at it if that's okay, initially at least. The clauses I already have. I believe I've given a copy to you guys. I just wanted Ed to walk through those clauses with us on a call, and he's coming back. He's committed to once a month for joining our calls. So let me see here. Okay, see letter of intent, example. See that file? Rose, you got it, right? Does everybody see that file right there? Letter of intent? Okay, you can click on that if you want. Take that file. Okay, just a Word document. Okay, we'll review those with Ed, okay? Because they're not going to apply, those clauses are not going to apply to every situation, but they're great for, you know, to give you an idea of what clauses we're putting in there, and when you're ready to do such an offer, we'll definitely get that reviewed. You want to get that reviewed by an attorney, and I would love to see it just to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? Especially for those first few deals that you're doing, okay? Is that good, Rose? When Ed comes back next month, we'll make him go through it again with us. We'll make him. He'll go through it with us again, okay? Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up? You good? If you're good, type in yes. Good. Everybody else good? Good, good, good. My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, we'll see you all next Tuesday. Keep hunting and keep coming back to the calls, okay? And we'll definitely keep reviewing those deals and help us walk through them as a team, as a group, okay? My pleasure, everybody. You have a great night, and we will see you next Tuesday. Reach out if you need